What up, guys? Welcome to the New American Dream Podcast. I'm your host, George Gibson. All right, we got a special show today because I have a co-host, Kenny Moore.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me, George. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. We're going to see what you got today. All right? First time on the
right,
show.
I'm going to bring it. I'm gonna bring it. Everything I got.
So today we have a great show because this guy, he's an awesome guy. But before we get in that, I just want to tell you this week, I have been reaching out to, people I never thought I could reach to. I have been trying to buy homes I never thought I could purchase. And it's all about taking limitations off our life. Many times I say most people make 10% more or less of their parents. And that's go the same for me. I only want to be a little bit better than my dad. But we have to take the limitations off and try to be, do what's unachievable. Do what sounds crazy. Go for the gusto. And that's the only way you're going to truly see real success. But yeah, today we have a guy, his name is Stevedsimms. He basically make the magic. Hey, he make the impossible things happen for people when they're rich and famous. So you're going to check him out. We have a great show. We got Kenny Moore on here. And anything you got to say, Kenny, before we get into it?
No, I'm excited. I know you're a big fan of one of his books, so I want to learn a lot from this guy. I'm excited to meet him.
Yeah, so if you haven't read his book, the book is called Bluefish. But enough of us talking. Let's get into the show. Welcome, Stevedsimms. Welcome to the show. We have Stevedsimms. How you doing, Steve?
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, man. So before we get started, just tell the people a little about who you are and what you do.
Wow. Well, there's two answers to that. What I'm known for now, I was not known for like 25 or 28 years. I was the guy that billionaires contacted when they wanted something interesting to happen, like close down a museum for a dinner party for only 6 people and have Andrea Bocelli come in, or get married by the Pope in the Vatican, or go down to see the Titanic, or go and play drums with Guns N' Roses. I was basically the Make-A-Wish Foundation for people with really big checkbooks. And then 3 years ago, I released a book. Didn't expect it to be anything, but I released a book because I wanted people to stop overthinking. A friend of mine, Jay Abraham, said that I have a greater I can than I do an IQ. And so I just go and do things, and then I fail, and then I try it again. But at least I've tried. And that's what a lot of people are frightened of doing now. So 3 years ago, I wrote a book. I didn't know it'd be any good. We didn't have a website. We didn't have a Facebook page. We had nothing. And 3 years later, we got like 13,000 subscribers, members. And then we've got like 55,000 people that follow us on Instagram and stuff. It's just ridiculous. So that's what I do now. I now work with entrepreneurs at my private Facebook group on Entrepreneurs Advantage with Stevedsimms, and I help them just get out of the way of themselves. That's what I do now.
Okay. So, the crazy part about this is I purchased your book 3 years ago, but I didn't. Most books I purchase, I go to the store knowing I'm going to purchase it. So at this time, I'm in the bookstore. I don't have no book in mind. Then I see this book, Bluefishing. It was in the section. So I'm like, pick it up, read the back. And it was saying you could make the unridiculous stuff happen. And I'm like, it sounds big and weird and different. So I bought it. And, not knowing I ever talked to you, but the book changed my life. And I kind of kept it a secret because I didn't want the world to know you could do all this stuff,
Well, I'm glad it helped. I was very stunned. In fact, and this doesn't cost anyone anything, but when the book came out, the publishers, and many, I'll tell you quite openly, I got hate mail from authors because I never tried to write the book. I got approached and I wrote the book and it came out and I got paid very well for doing that. So that's not normally the way authors get to do things. Authors have to try and submit and write a proposal. And then if they get accepted, then they start the negotiation. I had a book deal in a week just by meeting someone for breakfast. So I got a lot of people that I knew hated me for how easy it was. But on the book launch, they contacted me and they went, "Hey, 17th of October, the book goes out for public sale. You got to do a launch. And they sent me, which is ridiculous, they sent me a check. Now, I can't over-exaggerate how well I got paid for this book, and it had all been wired. So for them to actually post me a $2,500 check, I was like, what the hell is this for? And they went, we need you to buy some champagne, go down to your local bookstore on a Saturday, rent a table, rent a spot, and sign books on a Saturday afternoon. And I was like, there's no way in the world walking around with your kids on a Saturday afternoon, you're going to look at me and go, well, he looks warm and fuzzy. Let's go and find out what he's talking about. So it just wasn't going to happen. So I went down to this whiskey bar that I used to go to a lot in Hollywood. And I said, look, I've got to have a book launch. Part of my contract says I have to have a book launch. Can I do it here in this whiskey bar? I'll give you the $2,500 check. So I wrote on the back of it and signed it over to them. I said, look, as soon as I've drunk $2,500 worth of whiskey, turn the lights on and kick us out. And they went, yeah, fine, no problem. So I just phoned up a bunch of my friends. We all piled into this bar. And here's where it gets interesting. I have a website called stevedsimms.com. Again, I don't want you buying anything. I just want you looking at this video because it will help you. So on the night, one of these girls that was coming up called Sonia Hanna, who runs one of the biggest events with Cole in Vegas called Thrive. She turned up with a friend of hers who had this tiny little camera. It was like just slightly bigger than a GoPro.
Right.
And she said, look, do you mind if I get some ambience footage because I want to get a sizzle reel together for Cole? So she wanted to use my party and backdrop as background footage for him. So I went, yeah, fine, I don't care. But she lied. She lied to me. What she did was she actually filmed my entire launch party, and she was going around interviewing. And I got some pretty cool friends, and she was interviewing all of these people going, hey, what's it like to be at Steve's book launch? Now, at the beginning, afterwards, so 2 days later, she sent me this video, and it's brilliant. So watch the video, and here's where it gets good. At the beginning of the night, everyone is cold, stone sober. So it's all kind of like, it's an honor to be here with Steve, and Steve's done such great things. And then as the video goes on, the video is only like about a minute and a half. But as the night goes on and people are still being interviewed, they're drunk. Right. So they're like, I didn't know the bastard could even write. Oh, what a wanker. And just, it's abusive. So this entire video goes from really polite to really abusive. If you don't like swear words, don't watch the video. But here's the funny thing. I told you that I didn't think the book would be very successful.
Right.
I wrote the book hoping that you, just like your story, no pomp, no ceremony, no hype, would stumble on it. And with that low expectation, it could then do its most work on you. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to do a 50-state book tour. I didn't want to do TV. I turned down all the breakfast TV shows. I did nothing.
Wow.
And they moaned at me. They actually complained. They moaned at me. So I went, oh, you want me to? And they said, look, you don't even have a website. Wow. You've got to do a website. So I went, I stuck up at the time, one page with who is Steve Simms? And then I put this video in the middle. And that was my entire website for probably about 10 months. Wow. Just me getting drunk at the book launch was the entire thing.
Okay. I definitely got to put that link in the show notes so people can go watch it.
Yeah, you just said it's amazing. And I've seen a lot of people, and my company, bearing in mind, has also done a lot of big book launch promotions. I do that with my marketing and branding company, which is, what I do now. And so I've seen how other people like to market their book. And I work with authors now, and I'm getting them on, like The View, and I'm getting them on with Oprah Winfrey, and I'm getting them on with all the big podcasts. And that's how they want to do it. I didn't want to do that, So I really I went completely against it. And it's amazing how the results have kind of been the same. So the bottom line of it is, no matter what hype you put behind anything, if it's a pile of stinking shit, it still ain't going to do well. But if it's a bit of quality, you're still going to be all right.
Wow, that's a great story. All right, let's start from the beginning, because evidently, you are this amazing person, and you right now your success is different because, like you said, a lot of people are over exaggerating their product but under deliver the quality. You did complete opposite. You under delivered. I had no expectations for your book, but you over delivered, and that's what I like about it. But where did you get started from? Were your parents entrepreneurs?
I don't know is the answer, because I was a 60s child. Okay. So my parents were the children of the parents that had literally just come out of the war. So these were fundamental big changes in generation. If you look at the generational gap now, I'm not being rude, but not much really happened between the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s outside of bloody Facebook. We haven't seen it. We've now got COVID. Right. But that's been the biggest fundamental. During my generations, I had 3 generations. I had the war, I had flower power and sexual rock revolution, and then I was born. So a lot happened in those 3 generations being onto mine. So I don't think my parents were given the chance to be entrepreneurial. And as I grew up, I spent more time aggravated and pissed off than I did entrepreneurial. You see, an entrepreneur is aggravated. An entrepreneur spends most of his time irritated at how people do it. You can always recognize an entrepreneur as the person that walks into a restaurant and just kind of doesn't like the service or doesn't like this or that, because they look, it's like the Matrix. They can see through it and they go, well, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? Now, as a big lad from East London, I spent all of my time herring around on motorcycles, pissed off, aggravated, not knowing what I was, not knowing that I was this, he's an entrepreneur. Because bearing in mind, in the 80s and the 90s, if you were an entrepreneur, it meant that you couldn't get a job. It was like this fake job. Basically, it's like a fucking influencer now. It's a fake job. And that's what the entrepreneur was back then. And I remember, I don't know what I did at school, but I couldn't focus at school. I had to...
How were you in school, though? Were you like an A student?
That's what I was going to say. No, I think to pass through school, you had to be a C. So I knew, well, okay, I've got to make it. So my effort was always, all right, I've got a C. I can back off now. And I was very lazy.
Degrees.
Yeah. And I just remember I got into trouble at school and they took me to the headmaster. And I don't know what I was doing, but the headmaster gave me the cane. It was it was back in the days where you put your hand out and the headmaster lashed you with a long piece of bamboo. Sounding very antiquated now, and it is. But I remember at the time, the first time he hit my hand, I had 3 lashes. The first time he hit my hand, it hurt. Okay? It stings.
Right.
The second time, just before he hit my hand, he said, Simms, you're nothing but a hustler. Now, I never felt the second lash. I never felt the second lash. I never felt the third lash. I was like, well, why is a hustler a bad thing? You see, if you had a company now and someone walked into your company tomorrow and they said, hey, I know you're looking to hire someone, stop your hiring. I'm the greatest hustler you've ever met. You'd hire him on the spot because we want hustlers. But I came from a generation where the word hustler and entrepreneur was a derogatory slur. So I didn't know what I wanted to be. So I bounced around so many different jobs, trying to find things. I tried to be an insurance salesman. I was a door-to-door book salesman. I tried so many different things to get me off of my construction firm because my dad and my whole family were big Irish bricklayers. And wow. So, we were just a bunch of meatheads. And come Friday night, you just have a punch up in the pub. That's what Fridays were. And I didn't want that. I felt that there was something else. So entrepreneur,
right?
A typical entrepreneur jumps out of the frying pan into the volcano. We just move and then think about it afterwards. And that's what I spent 3 or 4 years of my life doing as I grew up.
And I got a question for you, Steve, because George asked me this question a long time ago. My dad, he was in finance. My mom was just in the postal service. And I was a pretty cheap kid. Like I never went and got new shoes. I never went and did any of that. But you call yourself a hustler. So he asked me, he said, like, how did you become the way you did if you weren't really taught that? I was the same way as you in school. I was, let me get my C's, get degrees. And then I got my scholarship to play basketball. So I was the jock athlete, whatever you want to call me. But then I graduated and I'm like, I need to get money. And I want to retire early. I don't want to work all my life. I told him, I said, I honestly don't know what in me like made me think like that. I guess it was just hanging out with certain people and seeing that side of life. I don't want to be like that. I don't want that life. I want the good life. And you said, we spoke earlier, you said you grew up in the rougher parts of London. So what, do you think any of that had like an effect on you as a child? Like, you know, I don't want to work for other people. I'm going to be a hustler. I don't know what yet, but
Yeah.
do you think that had any effect on you?
So my granddad, give you one of my pivotal moments. So I left school at the age of 15. I was very young. Now, bear in mind, in England, we have different kind of schooling. We leave at 16 and then we go to college. Yeah, you guys have high school here. But we leave early. I think it may have changed now, but back then you leave school when you're 16. Because I was so young in my school year, I left when I was 15. Way too immature to be left out in the world. My dad let me stay at home one day, and on the second day, kicked the bed at 4:30 in the morning and said, right, you're on the building site with me until you can find something better. So all of a sudden, I was on the building site. And I was on the building site for about a year with him. And I'd done all holidays, I was always on the building site. And I saw my granddad on one of these building sites. Now, my granddad was like in his 80s. And I saw my dad, and I saw my uncle, and I saw my cousins. But there was my granddad, 80 years old, it's raining, and he's doing the same job as like me in my 16 and 17 years old. And so come tea break, which was at 10 o'clock, we get out of the rain. You can imagine a bunch of construction workers. We're all wet. We're all trying to warm up in a shed, you know, just trying to stay out of the rain. My granddad's in the corner, crouched over this cup of tea, trying to get some warmth in him. And I went over to him and I went, Granddad, did you ever think you'd be doing this when you were this old? And of course, that's a really rude question to ask someone like that. You know, you hope in your 80s you're not working. You know, you're laying on a beach and you've retired. So this was basically throwing it in his face that he had failed. Really, if you think about it, it's a horrible thing. But I am really, to this day, stunned I never got a smack in the nose. My granddad was like 7'7", big Irish fella. He didn't even look at me, but he stopped drinking his cup of tea. And all he said, and I can remember this word for word, he said, son, if you don't quit today, you'll be me tomorrow. And I was like, shit, you know, because time flies. I'm 53 years old now, and I'm living up here in the hills in Los Angeles. And I sometimes think, where did my life go? You know, how the hell did all this happen? But I literally quit that day because me and you, we couldn't visually be more different. Okay, we look very different, don't we? Me and you.
Yeah, a couple hairs.
Yeah, you got a bit more. Well, mine's on the bottom, yours is on the top.
There you go. But
here's the daft thing. For as much as we are so different, I reckon that if you cut us in the middle, I reckon you'd find a gene, and it's probably purple or bright red or whatever, but there's a gene that makes us identical. You see, there's a gene in entrepreneurs that just says, no, this doesn't have to be this way. And that's the gene that when you fall over, makes you get up. And when you get laughed at, makes you ignore them. And when you get ridiculed, ripped off, screwed over, sued, laughed at, you just brush it off and carry on. That's why every entrepreneur, whether you're from Southeast China or South Boston, we're all identical because of that gene. And we all share that. And that's why we can all get into a room whenever you have an entrepreneurs event. And here's the key, entrepreneurs, not wantrepreneurs, not those people that think, oh, this looks like a pretty life. Entrepreneurs, when we get in the same room, we bond and connect because we're all exactly the same in some basic ground fundamental.
Wow.
George,
Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to stop everything right now and just record that, and that should be the whole thing. That last 3 minutes he just said was like everything in a nutshell. And that's why I asked him that one moment in his life stuck out, and he went on with that. And that's just amazing to me. But everything you just said, I love it. I want to write that down somewhere and wake up to it every morning.
Well, you've recorded it, so you'll be able to play it.
So Steve, I know that you tried to get a job to become a stockbroker for 6 months, and they decided to let you go, right? So you decide you want to become the bouncer of the club. What? Go ahead. Tell us. This is your story.
No, I didn't. No one wakes up and says, hey, I want to be a doorman and get into a fight every night. I never thought that. What happened was I got fired from my job as a trainee stockbroker because I couldn't do anything. And I really was so badly, it was terrible. I had lied so badly even to get the job. So it was no surprise that I got fired. I literally was drinking. I was in Hong Kong. And I was drinking at this bar thinking that my life was over. My girlfriend, who is now thankfully my wife and has been with me for 35 years, she's in England. She's still thinking that I've got a stockbroker's job and this is going to be the big, woohoo, we're now going to be onto the road of, Porsches and, American Express black cards. And I've got no money and I'm drinking myself stupid outside this bar in Hong Kong thinking this is the lowest point of my life. How can it get worse? And this girl that owned the bar, this woman, she said to me, and it's so inappropriate, but hey, you want the story.
Right. She
comes out and she went, you, and just pointed, and I apologize about the accent, but I'm saying it for ambience reasons. And she went, you, and just pointed at me. And I had no one with me. And I'm drinking whiskey, shit whiskey, on the rocks. And because I couldn't afford the good stuff. And she said, your people are inside and they're causing trouble. You get them out or my people will get them out. Now, I was there on my own. So I'm like, what do you mean your people? So I got up because I was just, who is she confusing me with?
Right.
And I walked into the bar and it's this shitty little bar in Wan Chai, Hong Kong. And there's like these three big white fellas on a table. And these are my people, apparently. And they've all had too much to drink. They're all getting a bit handsy with the girls and stuff like that. And she said to me, you get them out. And I said, no. And I won't. I said, no, sod off. I'm not doing it. And she said, you get them out and I pay for your drinks. And then I thought, well, okay, I've racked up a big bar tab here, so that works for me. Right. So I went over and I said to the guys, look, boys, we don't know each other, but there are two things that are going to happen. You're going to walk out the front door, come back tomorrow, and I'm going to buy you your first beer. Or a bunch of guys are going to run out from behind that curtain, hit you with damn big sticks, and you're probably not going to see Tuesday. So it's your choice. I'm going back out the front. I hope you make the smart decision. Pay your bill up, be intelligent, see ya. And I left. And I walked back outside, sat back down to my whiskey, and about 3 minutes later, they came out and they were like, thanks, mate, thanks. And they went off. So she came up to me and she said, you work here now. I give you a job, you work here. So I didn't have a job, and now I had the chance of getting a job. And this was back in the day, because doorman now, you have to be licensed and you have this badge on your arms. I just got, for the first few weeks of me being a doorman, I just got drunk every night, and didn't really care. So it was from this dark place. And I thought I won't say I thought my life was over.
Right.
But I really thought to myself, this is a hole. I'm on the door. I'm paid to have fights. I'm drinking each night. This is a dark place. But something funny happened. From the door, I saw people. Now, no one wants to talk to a doorman. When you boys go to a nightclub, you don't want to have a conversation with the doorman because the doorman's only there to get involved if you start getting Larry inside. You don't want to have a conversation with them. You want to have a conversation with the waitress or the barmaid or something like that. No one ever wants to talk or see the doorman. So to a point, we're kind of invisible. So we actually got the chance to see how people turned up each night. And you'd have the girls celebrating a contract or a boyfriend or a marriage or a new baby. You'd have the guys celebrating a high school reunion or a contract or where. And then you'd get the guys that were just looking for a fight, or the girls that were just going out just trying to pull someone because they had no money. And from my job as the doorman, I suddenly got to see humanity. It suddenly was a brilliant place, and it changed my perspective. I suddenly got to see the way the world worked. And I realized that I didn't have to stay where I was. Again, the entrepreneur thing. I was poor, and I was hanging around with poor people. What would make me not poor? Well, it was easy. Hang around with rich people. If I hang around with rich people, if I'm in a room and there's 20 rich people in there, by default, I'm going to become rich because I'm going to learn from them. So from that point, I started changing the way I acted on the door. I started hanging and chatting with the people that had money. And it's funny, in the early stage, when someone's got, I don't want to call it out, but when someone's got a nice car, right, and maybe they've got the M sign on it or the GT, you look at these people like they're the richest people you've ever met. And then all of a sudden, you've got, you're talking to people that have got like limited edition Ferraris and $1 million cars. So it changes as your life goes on. But in the early stages, I just wanted to hang around with rich people and go, how do you have money and I don't? Where are we different? And that's what I found. And the daft thing is, I wouldn't have found that being a stockbroker. I wouldn't have found that in any other job. So in hindsight,
right,
the best thing that ever happened to me was me getting completely wasted outside that bar that night and stopping these three guys from getting a punch up.
Wow. And that's so crazy because I think the universe actually works like that. When people, you put in, like I was a mailman, Steve, and, I had no idea I was going to start doing real estate full time. But me being that mailman, I learned the neighborhood. I learned the city, not knowing that I'm going to be buying houses in this neighborhood, but it's like you in position. And then that green light went on and said, it's a reason for you in that position. Like you had the bouncer. So how long were you a bouncer before you, like the light turned where you say, let me start meeting rich people or talk to rich people? How long were you working there?
I think I was a bouncer for maybe, because the first time I got the job, I thought to myself, okay, I've got some money now. But then I started seeing it was pretty quick. I would probably say maybe 2 or 3 weeks that I went, hang on a minute, there's something here. And I started noticing certain things, like, why certain clubs were getting a better standard of clientele than the club I was in. So I started speaking to the team and making small changes. So I started to do it purely selfishly because I wanted rich people in the room. And then what I was doing was the bar would close at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I would do kind of lockbacks. And, if anyone paid $1,000, you could stay in the bar until like 5 o'clock, And the funny thing is, when someone's spending $1,000 to stay there and carry on drinking, they've got a bit of coin. So without realizing that, I was starting to build up a network of people that were willing to pay for that little bit extra. So I then started finding the Tuesday night when the club was really quiet and throwing private parties and charging people to get into my private party. And of course, I'd only ever charge people that had money because we all know, because we've all been poor people can't afford shit. We know that because we've been poor. Right. So I would only ever invite rich people. So the party started off by being 20 rich guys. And then it started off by being 40 rich guys. And then I started taking over apartments and then yachts and then mansions and then penthouse. And it just went bigger and bigger. And I always wanted to, again, the entrepreneurial dream, how far can I take this? How far can I push it? So I went from being a doorman to throwing some of the biggest lavish parties. And if you are a millionaire, I may let you in. But my focus was always on billionaires, And I would find, and guess what? If you speak to 2 billionaires, guess who their friends are? Billionaires. So that's what I did. I just started getting all these marketing out there and inviting just the richest of the rich of the rich to these events. And I went from throwing these parties to, in the end, working for like the Grammys and Sir Elton John's Oscar party and the Kentucky Derby and the New York Fashion Week. And it just grew to see how far I could take it. And along the way, my Rolodex is getting bigger and bigger and bigger with the billionaires around the planet. And I love seeing these reports now of the richest families around the world, because I can literally sit there and go, worked with him, worked with her daughter, know them, know that. And it's hilarious. But I always focused on going after the richest people and asking them, why are you rich and I'm not?
And that's what I was going to say. What is a common business that the rich people you're dealing with, what is it, like a common business that they were all in, or just all spread it across the world?
The businesses, you never look at the industry. And I remember Joe Polish had this conversation. Joe Polish was a carpet cleaner, and he told me this story, which equates it perfectly. So it's not my story, it's his, but it perfectly explains it. He was a carpet cleaner, and he wanted to become very wealthy. And he got the chance to go out water skiing with this guy that was very wealthy. So he went up to the guy and was trying to be friends with him. And he said, hey, what industry should I get into to make money? Because he was a carpet cleaner.
Right.
And he turned around and the guy said to him, he said, well, if you're in the carpet cleaning industry, why do you want to get out of that industry? And he said, because I want to make money. He said, well, okay, let me ask you a question. Is anybody in the carpet cleaning industry rich? And he said, yeah, there's loads of them. He said, well, the problem's not the industry, the problem's you. So all of my rich people, they were in so many different industries and they had so many different aspects and growth that it wasn't so much what industry made them money, it was what mindset these people were. What made them all the same in totally different industries. And it was their openness to opportunity. They could see opportunities when people couldn't, okay? They were willing to try things and they were willing to fail at things, because your learning doesn't come from success. If you try to sell 20 projects and you sell 21, okay, great. But if you try to sell 20 products and you sell 2, you'll get more education out of that failing and being able to change the message, change the website, change the problem that it solves. If you focus on that, you'll get more growth out of your failure than you will out of your success. And entrepreneurs, here's the beautiful thing, they don't care about you laughing. They don't care that they failed. They don't care that they invested a lot of time and money into something and it went horribly wrong. Let's have a look at it, see where it went wrong, and then change. So that's what I noticed. The single thing about entrepreneurs was their mindset, not their industry.
So I'll say this real quick, because I don't know if a lot of people know this about George or not. A couple of years ago, before he started doing everything, he, I'm pretty sure he had a kid on the way, and he called me. He told me, and I'm only saying this because you said the word entrepreneur, and this is the clear difference. This is when I 100% believed in everything George is doing. And I said, yes, full sail ahead. He called me. He said, I quit my job at the post office. And I'm pretty sure his kid was on the way. And I was like, usually people take risks when they have like no obligations. You can fail. You're single. Go sleep on your friend's couch for 2 months. He had a kid on the way, just married, house. I'm like, but right then when he told me that over the phone, I said, you are an entrepreneur. Whatever you want, I'm all in. Like I'm riding with you. I'm eyes closed. You got the wheel, So I don't know if a lot of people know that about George, but yeah, he's the real deal. Exactly what you just said.
That's the difference. That's the difference. Yep.
But Steve, I think like, all right, I'm 31 years old now. I probably felt like this maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I knew deep down inside that I wasn't a 9-to-5 type worker. I knew I had to pay my bills at home, so I need a job. But to everybody, I'm telling them, I'm like, man, I need to start my own business. I felt it inside, you know, and I knew my purpose was around real estate. I didn't know what part, I just knew it was around real estate. So I think just the entire world, if people figured out what their general purpose was, what their gift was to the world, everybody would be a lot more happier and the world will run a lot smoother. You think?
Yeah, but we said, if anyone rewinds this podcast, we said at the beginning that all of us as entrepreneurs, we're aggravated. You know, we're misfits and we're dysfunctional until we're incredibly functional. You see, entrepreneurs don't just handle a situation, they dominate it, they redesign it, they disrupt it. And that's the difference with us entrepreneurs. It makes no sense. You know, you should not have left your normal job, your regular paid job with benefits at a time when you had a child coming. You should not have done that, other than the fact that you were an entrepreneur and your asset was actually hidden and you needed to unleash it, because you can't conquer until you unleash. It doesn't make any sense, but that's the world of an entrepreneur.
Right. Wow. That's a lot. All right. So you start throwing these parties, right? You start throwing these parties, you're becoming successful. What is some of the traits that some of your successful clients, what are some of the traits that they all had? Like, are they working 40, 50 hours a week, or are they not working every week? Like, what are billionaires doing?
So there's a lot of things that there's a lot. There is absolutely a lot. The first thing I noticed was they stopped working on things. A smart entrepreneur realizes when they can't do something. And when they can't do it, that's what Fiverr and outsourcing's for. When you can't do something, get someone else to do it, you know? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So for you to be brilliant, and we've all got unicorns in us. We're all amazing at something, okay? You've just got to understand what it is and then stop doing everything else so that you spend 24 hours a day just being amazing. And I noticed that my successful clients focused on not doing things. And this kind of didn't make sense to me. Why are you do you do this? I have Maggie do this. And I'd be like, can't you do that? Yeah, I can, but I choose not to. And at first I thought, well, that's arrogance. That's like the Lord going, well, you know, I'm not going to clean my car. You know, I'm not. And at first I just thought that was entitlement, but it wasn't. If you're paying someone $50 to clean your car, and a good car cleaner can do it in like a couple of hours, okay? And you're paying $50 to $100 to clean your car, well, you can do that, but can you earn more than $50 in 2 hours? And the answer is hell yeah. So earn more money and pay other people to do what costs you less money. So I noticed in the early stages, they actually focused on as much as they can or could to stop doing it. And I went from thinking this is entitlement. I remember the first time I've flown all over the world a million times, and I love it. But I also have a bad habit of motorcycles. I buy a lot of motorcycles, and I'm constantly spending money on motorcycles. So to help my argument with my wife on the motorcycles, I would have a trip from like here to London, from LA to London, like an 11-hour flight. I would fly in economy for like $500, okay? I would not fly in business class for like $4,000. And right. Therefore, that $3,500 I could spend on motorcycle parts, okay?
Wow.
That was my logic. But something else happened. I would get to London, and I'm a big lad. I'd be so cramped up that it would take me a day or maybe a day and a half to get back into the swing of things. you know? So I hadn't saved myself 3.5 grand. I'd lost a day and a half. Then what I started doing was I started working, and it was a mentor that taught me this. I started flying business class because in business class, I could work. I had a table. I could stretch out. I could sleep. I could relax. I could eat better. Now, when I landed, I could literally run a business meeting while in the car from the airport because I was relaxed. I had been working. I was comfortable. I could get to the hotel, drop my bag, and bang, straight into another business meeting. So I never lost a day and a half when I was relaxed. So I would make 10 times more money because I was relaxed and I didn't have to get back in the groove. So you've really got to focus on what you do exceptionally and then get everybody else in the planet to do what you can do and choose not to. That was the first big thing I noticed in the rich people I was dealing with. They did less, but what they did do made more money.
Wow. So if you could say in one word, the one thing you do better than all your friends in one word, what would that be?
Communicate.
Got it.
Yeah, that's it. I can talk to you and I can get my message over to you succinctly and importantly. As I always say, there is a huge difference between being easy to understand and impossible to misunderstand. And from you reading my book and from the short time that we've been on this conversation, you know the kind of character I am, you know the kind of person, you know the kind of language you're going to get when we talk. You already know these things because I haven't tried to be somebody I'm not. So when I communicate with someone, I will enter a room and within 10 minutes, they know who they're dealing with and what we're there for. I make it very easy for them to be able to understand what the point of working with me is. And I do that very well. And that's one of the things I teach people now because it saves a lot of time in being able to be as clear as possible when you're chatting with the people you want to do business with. And bearing in mind, you've also got to understand, who has the most time in a day, a rich person or a poor person?
Wait, because I was going to do a video on this. It's on my board. A person who has no time, I think is in the middle class. A poor person, a poverty person who don't work, they got a lot of time. And a rich person usually have a lot of time because, like you said, they got other people working for them. So I think...
No. The rich person usually is focused on the projects that they can do that nobody else can. Okay, so a poor person has a lot of time. Okay, that's correct. Why talk to them? Because straight away you know they can't afford you. Whatever you've got to sell, why talk to them when you know that more than likely they can't afford you? When you're talking to a rich person, their time's more valuable because they spend their time on what can make a lot of money. Because when it can't make a lot of money, they get it to someone else. So when you want to talk to someone that can afford you, you have shorter space of time to get your message across impactfully. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you've got to walk into a room and you've got to go, hey, how you doing? My name's Stevedsimms. We've never met, but I know you've got a problem and I'm your solution. When can we chat about it? You know, bang, straight in. And they're like, whoa, hang on. You've identified what the problem is and you've called out that you're the solution. Okay? How many people, and so let's talk about basketball, which obviously being a chubby white guy from England, I know fuck all about. So let's talk about basketball for a second. If you were, you said you got a scholarship for basketball, is that correct?
Correct.
Right. So if I came up to you and I said, hey, I've been sitting on the sidelines, I've been watching you, and you're making these 3 mistakes, and if you work with me for the next 2 hours, I can make sure those mistakes never pop up again, but I can also make you run faster and leap higher. Would you be interested?
Definitely interested.
But the reason you're interested is because I've stepped into the conversation and illuminated the problem that you have by stating, I saw you you made these 3 mistakes. Okay? When you go into a business meeting and you can go, hey, thanks very much for taking the time. I've been looking at the structure you've got, and there's 3 ways that you could actually be making more money than you actually are now. Would that be of interest to you? You know, you've shown that you've done your homework And if you walk in there and you go, hey, how are you? My name's Steve Sims. Hey, could we spend some time you explaining to me what it is you do? And then I'll look to see if there's something that I do that could help you. You know what that's called? That's called a fishing trip. You're there just to see if there's a way you can snag a little bit of business. I walked up to, and I can't say his name because of contractual reasons. I still work with him. But I worked for Elton John for 8 years. Last year was my last year. And I was at an Elton John party, and there was a gentleman there that I knew, and I knew he was going to be there, and I wanted to meet him. I knew he was going to be there, and I wanted to meet him, which meant that I was focused on my introduction. And so I knew he was going to be there. I knew he was working on a couple of projects, and one of the projects he was working on, and I have to be a little bit vague because, as I say, it's not been released yet, but one of the projects he had, I saw flaws in it. I saw problems in it. I could just see it. So I knew he was going to be at this problem. So I walked up to him. Now, here's one of the things. Has anyone ever walked up to you and gone, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you, George. And you have no idea who they are?
Yeah, I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
You could ask me that.
Right. So you ask, okay, you think about it. When you're a high-profile person, how many times do they get people walk up to them to shake their hand? And there's nothing more disconcerting because the first thing that's going through their mind is, who is this person? Have I ever met him before? Have I met him at a party and I'm supposed to recognize him? And as soon as you start doing podcasts, people come up to you because they think they know you. You don't know them, okay? The easiest way to make someone relaxed is to state the obvious, okay? So walk up to them and just go, hey, how you doing, George? My name's Steve Sims. We've never met.
Relieve the pressure off me.
How relaxed would you feel instantaneously?
Yeah. Now I know I don't know you and I don't have to fake it.
You don't know me. You haven't got to think. Now you can relax and go, whew, that's off my chest. What do you want? But that's fine. I've just eliminated some stress out of your life. Isn't that a good feeling?
Right.
So when you're a profile person, I walk up and I go, hey, how you doing, Brad Pitt? My name's Steve Sims. We've never met. It sounds obvious, but it's not. It really does relax the other person because you've called it out. So this person, it wasn't Brad Pitt, but this guy that I spoke to, I said to him, hey, how you doing? My name's Steve Sims. We haven't met, but I am aware you're working on a project and I'm concerned because I noticed that there were 2 things happening in it. Have you considered this and this that could potentially go wrong? Because I have a solution if you're interested. Now, I knew this guy was filthy rich, and therefore rich people could afford things. I wanted him to afford me. Do you know what he turned around and said? He said to me, he went and ahh for a bit and kind of stroked his beard. And he looked at 2 of the guys who he was with who started smirking and laughing. Okay. So I'm thinking, this isn't a good sign, but let's see where this goes. And then he looked over to me and he went, we saw those problems 8 months ago, and that's why we killed the deal. And I went, oh, so you already saw them? He said, yeah, we saw it. He said, and we killed the deal. Just no one knows that we've killed the deal yet. But we saw that. And I went, oh, congratulations. Well done. That's good. And I thought to myself at the time, I've lost the chance to work with him because he's cancelled the deal.
Right.
But he turned around to me and he said, but I like the way you think. And this was his words, you show up with a solution. I want to introduce you. And he introduced me to his second in charge. And he went, Billy, get together with Sims, find some time to talk, and let's see what we can do on this project that we're planning now.
Wow.
And I literally got the deal, and it's not been released yet. But because I actually showed up, showing that I'd paid attention to what they were doing, I had seen a problem, and I had walked up with a solution, made me the kind of person that they wanted in their sandpit, and I got the deal.
Wow. That's a lot. So you are basically, for the listeners out there, if you're trying to reach, let me get a name out here, LeBron James, and you want to meet him. So you basically saying, instead of just going up to him, introducing yourself, and LeBron James, he's trying to get a deal with Nike. He don't have a deal yet. and you know a contact at Nike, you basically trying to have a solution for that big company or that famous person. You want to have a solution instead of just, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Let's break it down even further. Now, you mentioned earlier about you had a child on the way. What was it, boy or girl?
Boy.
Congratulations, mate. So do you both have wives or girlfriends?
Wives.
Right. Okay. So let's play the game then. And I know this is your show, so I hope I'm not making you uncomfortable here. But here's the scoop. So I play, and your wives are going to listen to this and probably call you a jackass if you get it wrong. But
It's not shoot, marry, or kill, is it?
it's close. So here's the thing. So if I say to you, I'm having a house party this Saturday night, do you two want to come? Okay. What's the first question you ask me? So let's say, for argument's sake, you said, hey, thanks, Steve. That's great. What's the first question you ask me? Or do you ask me a question?
Right now, I'd probably ask, what type of party is it?
All right. So it's a barbecue party, and we're going to have steaks, and we're going to play cornhole, and there'll be a DJ there and a bar.
Then I'd say, cool. Is it just the guys, or are we bringing our wives?
All right. It's partners as well.
Partners.
Yeah, no kids.
Okay.
Sure,
I
have
come.
a follow-up question up there. Yeah, I'm coming.
All right. Okay. Then you are selfish jackasses. You see, what you've done is you've just asked questions that helps you validate whether or not it's worth your time to attend my party that I'm feeding you at.
Dang.
Okay?
I looked at it way different, yeah.
But am I right?
No, I need to know if I even want to waste my time coming to your party. So I would want to know, is it worth?
Yeah, but what you're doing is you're looking after you, aren't you?
Right.
All the questions that both of you asked looked after your decision as to whether or not you should come. Now, I respect that you need to work out whether or not it's worth your time. I respect that. But all of your questions were all about you, weren't they?
Right. Yeah, they were.
Now, let's be blunt. If LeBron James invited you to his party on Saturday night, are you going?
I'm on the way.
Are you going to ask the stupid questions that you just asked?
Nope.
Right. Okay. So bottom line of it is, your response was totally selfish to validate it. Was it worth it for you? Okay. Now, tonight, I want you to speak to your wife, and I want you to play an imaginary game with her and say, you've got this guy, Stevedsimms, pretty cool cat, very good looking, and he's having a house party, and he's invited you both, and you want to go. Again, it's an imaginary scenario.
Right.
What question would you first ask? Do you know what the girls will ask? What would the girls ask?
They'd probably say, who is Steve? I don't know. What would they ask? I don't know.
The girls will ask, what should we bring?
Ooh, I kind of want to go do it right now. I'm about to
the
just
girls
go
turn around, and if it was a house party, if you turned around and said, hey, I'm going to George's party, and they've invited us over Sunday, your wife or girlfriend would turn around and go, oh, that's fantastic. It's George. We like George. Hey, what should we bring? Does he want salad? Does he want food? Does he want some drink? What should we bring?
100%.
See, the ladies always think
their mind is
they can
different.
show up with. Yours is different?
No, I said a woman mind is different. They are one more, I think, catering. And like
okay. You've got to start thinking like a woman then when you want to meet people. Because here's the point. LeBron James, you're going to walk up to him like you've been invited to his party, and you're going to want to validate everything that works for you, And here's the weird thing. The more high profile somebody is, when you walk up to them, they're already thinking, what does he want? What is he going to ask me for? What does he want me to endorse? What does he want out of me? What does he want? So when you walk up to him and you go, hey, LeBron, I believe you've got a charity. I think that's a fantastic cause that you've got there. I've got a solution that could raise the amount of money that goes to your charity. Would it be of interest to you? Hey, I know you're trying to get a deal with Nike at the moment. I've actually got a connection. Can I help you facilitate that? You're stepping into his party and you're bringing something.
Bringing value to him.
See, if we rewind that, and I don't want to embarrass you guys, but the bottom line of it is, guys are selfish. And I'm a great selfish person, okay? I don't do anything unless it benefits me and my family. Fine. But the bottom line of it is, in order for me to be as selfish as I can, I've got to be able to play in the sandpit of people that are greater than me in some way, okay? And if I want to get in front of LeBron, Elon, Richard Branson, Elton John, any of the great people that I deal with, I've got to show up with some value that makes them want to invite me to the party. Both of your questions looked after you. If you kept, I did this with a podcast a little while ago, and the guy started rattling off about 30 questions. And I said, you know something? If you'd asked me the third question, by the fourth, I would have told you the party was cancelled. You know? Because he was just like, well, who's going to be there? Do I know anyone? Is anyone famous going to be there? He even said to me, will I be able to bring a camera?
Wow.
You know? And I said, dude, everything you've just said looks after you. Not one single thing looks after me. But you ask a woman and she's going to go, oh, that's fantastic. Once she's decided yes, she's going to say, thank you. What shall I bring? And that's what you've got to think about. Whenever you step up to a relationship today, do your homework. Don't accidentally fall into it. Do your homework. Hey, I've been in parties and there's been someone there that I wasn't expecting, but we've got these bloody things, these phones. We can Google someone in 3 nanoseconds and know more about them than a 20-minute conversation. Right. Okay? Find out what they like, walk up to them and go, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. We've never met before, but my name's George. I read something a while ago that you love to collect miniature horses. You know, how long have you been doing that? Start a conversation based on something that they like. And people love nothing more than talking about themselves and what they love.
Right. So, Steve, I'm only going to take a 10% cut from you, but ever since I read your book, you know, the first thing I do, I start telling some of the stories you have in your book to people. And, you know, he take people to meet Elton John. And the first question everyone has, well, how did he do it? And I say, he didn't say that, or that would be the whole secret to his business, the bluefish business. So, I mean, I got you over here. I don't know what you're going to say, but, you know, somebody want to do some extraordinary, out-the-world thing. What's your first step? Like, what's in your mind?
So if you're going to do anything extraordinary, you want to do something stupid. You don't want to do something impossible, okay? And this may sound really, really silly. So for everyone listening to that, pause, rewind, play it again 20 times, and then continue. How many times have you heard people say, hey, I'm gonna go and do something. I'm going to go for impossible. Or I'm going to go for the impossible. Or I'm going to do the impossible. The second you state in your head that it's impossible, you've already validated that you're not going to achieve it. You know? So you've got to go for stupid, go for ridiculous, go for the unachievable, go for what people would laugh at. Once you know what you're going to go for, then what you've got to do is work out, again, what can I bring to the party? Now, you mentioned Elton John, and we've spoken about going on the Titanic and anything you want to do, anything I've ever done, I've gone to the people that can provide it for me, and I brought value to them. I have said, hey, I believe you're doing this. I'd like to help you with that because I've got this client that wants to do this. So if we can meet in the middle, we're both winners. We're both happy bunnies. Does that work? So you've always got to ask, whatever you're doing, whether it guitar lesson was ZZ Top, whether a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, walking down an Oscar party with Sir Elton John, hanging out with Elon Musk or Sir Richard Branson, what can you do for them first that's going to make them want to keep you in that sandpit? The easiest way to lose someone of power and profile is to discuss money. Never, ever, ever have I discussed money. I talk about what I want, how I'm going to do it, why I'm going to do it, about the client, about that. At the end, I said, look, I'm sure there's going to be some money involved, so just let me know what it's going to be, and we'll go from there. It's almost like blasé, okay? You would never phone up Elton John and go, hey, Elton, how much would it cost for you to come and sing at my barbecue party? Because he will just go, click.
Wow.
But if you phone up and you say, Elton, I'm doing this charity event. We're trying to raise money for this. I understand there's going to be a payment to you as well. That's fine. But this charity also looks after your charity. How can we make it happen? Now you're enticing them into the actual event outside of money. You see, there's a bottom line that I always say. If you talk to anyone about the price tag, you've already lost. Because you never want to have an argument over price, because if you do, it means you failed to demonstrate the value, and values can't be replicated.
I'm a sales manager, and everything you're saying is just 100% on target. Just build value, find the solution, and money shouldn't be the issue. This is what you told me, and flip it on them. This is what I can provide for you. And then also with like surrounding yourself with people. I'm not the smartest guy at all by any means. My C's get degrees, you can tell that. But like you said, you surround yourself with the person that can do this, that can do that. You can either learn from them, or you can, tie that together and become successful in whatever you need. Not use them, but like you said, get whatever you need done, basically.
If they benefit and you benefit, no one's used anyone.
It's a win-win.
Okay?
Exactly.
And it is the smartest person in the room that realizes that he's not. I have always maintained, I've been in rooms where I've been the smartest person in the room, and I clearly look at this room and I go, I can't benefit from this room. And that's where the selfishness comes in. I shouldn't stay in that room. So I leave the room and I go and find another room where people are in there that are literally rocket scientists. And I'm the dumbest person in the room. They're rocket scientists. That's the room I now need to be in. So you've got to realize that. And by not being the sharpest tool in the shed, that's a very brilliant position to start from.
I'm not complaining.
Good. Hey, did you say you're the sales manager?
Yes.
There you go. You're the manager. So there you go. You got to be doing something right, man.
I also like,
you're not the janitor. You're not the coffee boy. You got to be doing something right.
I tell George this all the time. We use the word lightly. It's called karma, but he uses the word karma. I use the energy that I put out into the universe. So I feel like you say we're cut from the same cloth. We have the same gene. You said a lot of things that were very similar. And you say you walk into a room and you go, hey, this is me. This is it. Cut and dry. I just feel like you put out that energy and people feed off that. And that's helped you become successful. And you've used that your whole life. So I was listening. I know that was a long time ago, but are you sure we're not related? I don't know. We might be.
I told you, cut us in half, and you're going to find that little G. I run events all over America called speakeasies, and I'm not here to pitch them, but I have 40 people tops that come into a room. And here's the daft thing: and I'm going to give you the website only because you want to laugh at it. SimmsSpeakeasy.com.
Okay.
I charge $2,000 for 2 days, and all I tell you is the date, how much it's going to cost, and the city. I don't even tell you where it's going to be, okay? Because I want the right kind of people in there. Now, a lot of people go, why would I pay $2,000 when I know nothing about the event? That's fine. Don't do it. But we've never not sold out. And the daft thing is, as strange and as different as you are, you're going to get into a room with other people that you go, hang on a minute, these people are totally different from me. And at the end of the 2 days, you go, we're brothers. My mum gave birth to 40 other people. It's just ridiculous how similar everybody is. And I've seen rooms where people come in and we vote by our eyes. You've heard that before. We vote with our eyes. We walk in a room. We saw this person over here in a sharp suit. He turned up in a Porsche. I'm going to go and talk to him because he is successful visually. You see me turn up. I don't even have a car. I just have a motorbike. Every city, country that I go to, I rent a motorbike. I don't like 4 wheels. I like 2. And so you'll see me walk in there, black T-shirt, eyebrow piercing, tattoos, big lump of a lad, crash helmet. I walk in and you're like, that guy can't even afford a car, you know? So we vote with our eyes. It's amazing that when I'm doing these speakeasies, I get to see all of these people suddenly meld together and go, we are all the exact same. And the relationships, and I joke because I'm not very nice sometimes, but I wind up people and go, you avoided her. You wanted nothing to do with her. Now look at you. You're both doing a multi-million-dollar business because you were both in that room and you realize how similar you actually were. So it is funny and it is glorifying to find that.
All right, Steve. All right. So you only like to go in rooms with rich people. So what do you get out of going to visit the inmates in jail? What's the benefit for them and you?
So again, I'm selfish. I like to get myself uncomfortable. You know, like I used to do kickboxing, and I used to fight for a British team. And I was younger, and I was pretty good. And then years ago, here in LA, I started taking up MMA. I was terrible, but I was fighting against like these 18-year-old kids that could beat the living shit out of me. But the bottom line of it is, it was putting me in an uncomfortable position to see if I could win. Never did, but I kept on trying. So I like to get into a position where I'm uncomfortable so I can reassess my perspective. I went to the prison. I'll be completely blunt with you. There's a group called defyventures.org, and they look after inmates, and they help them take that hustle that we've already said is a brilliant gene from the criminal aspect into the legal productive aspect.
Right.
Okay. And so I went along once because it would make me look cool. You know, Stevedsimms, the big biker, goes in and talks to people in prison. Oh my God, he's so wonderful. Hail Steve. I went along with the wrong reason. I went along to give me a good holier than thou experience. And it took 2 minutes of me being in that room to realize what a fraud I was and how these people could educate me, how they could help me. A lot of people grew up. Now, I grew up poor, but I was never sexually abused. I had both of my parents. Every night I was fed. Every night I was bathed. Every night I was kissed and tucked into bed and told I was loved. I didn't have any money, but hell, take the money aspect out of it, I couldn't have been wealthier. I had my parents and everything, okay? I go in there and there's people in there that have been abused. How did they have any other option than to start going down the paths that they did when they thought this was just what was supposed to be? Yet in the middle of it all, they've gone, hang on a minute, again, that gene, bing, it pops up again. This doesn't have to be me. And they usually got in trouble as they were trying to pull themselves out of the gangs or trying to pull themselves. When you've got a drug business, which is netting you $1 million a month, it's very, very hard to just go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and get a job at Hertz Rent-A-Car because it's legal. You know, you can't do that shit. So it's very hard for them to be. For a lot of these people, prison has actually been a great thing for them because it stopped everything. And it's now given them a chance to reevaluate and start again. And I go in there, and I've been going for 3 years now. I've taken just over 100 other entrepreneurs in there with me. And I go in there to listen to their stories and help them build up like a Shark Tank experience, how they can take their hustle and transform it into a productive industry when they leave prison. And it's made such a dynamic change to my life to be able to work with them. Here's the dumb thing. I would rather spend a night with those guys, not the whole prison, but with the guys I'm dealing with, and there's about 70 of them. I'd rather spend, you know, a weekend with all of those guys in prison than some of the people you meet in like an Elton John party. You see, the difference between certain criminals can sometimes just be the, you know, the tailored suit.
Right.
And so I've met people that I trust more inside than I do at some of the events I go to. So I still do the events. I love what the five do. Sadly, I haven't been. I went to prison in February, and of course, then COVID kicked in, and I haven't been able to go back in. The second they allow me back in a prison, I'll be there. And if you subscribe to me at stevedsimms.com, I'll let you know when the next one is, and I take people in there. Because if you want to know how wealthy you are and how entitled and privileged you are, go and meet people that in the worst environment in the world are strong, powerful, motivated, self-assured, confident, good people.
All right, Steve, I got a question for you. You said the first time you went in there, you felt like a fraud. And then earlier today, we were talking about how times kind of changed from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Times obviously changed, and now we're in like the social media age. And like you said, I feel like there's a lot of frauds out there who are, hey, look at me on the camera, da-da-da. If you think you started right now, if let's say you could go back to where you were 18, do you think you could build like everything that you've become? Do you think you could build yourself up to that as well, like the same way in today's world?
Yes and no. Yes, I could, because I still influencers today. I'm stunned at how many influencers out there are popular by talking about other people's achievements. All right, that really makes me laugh. The bottom line of it is, people still want to meet people that can and not just talk about it. So I still think I could do well, because bearing in mind, I'm about as subtle as a brick through your kitchen window. I come along, I solve the situation, I make you look damn good, I charge you the money, you pay, you go, you've got your stories, and then I get to move on again. So I would still be able to do what I do now. I would just have a different set of tools to do it. You see, I didn't have social media then. So now maybe I would do more on social media. See, bearing in mind, when I released my book, I had 16 followers on Instagram. 16. Wow. Okay. I think probably 15 of those were probably lost. One of them was my mum, so I didn't have many followers, and I never planned to start socially marketing. I never started social advertising. I never started trying to do viral videos. I never did any of this. If something bothered me, I'd put it up there. Bad language, misspelt, bad audio, bad video, fuck it, put it up there. If it's true, if it means something to me, put it up there. And I would do it. And then it just gradually grew, because again, I wanted to make myself not an influencer. I didn't want to brand myself. I didn't want to market myself. I went out with one goal. I wanted to be impossible to misunderstand. That was it. I wanted to be impossible to misunderstand, which would allow you to make a very clear decision as to whether or not I like this guy or I can't deal with this guy. I wanted to make it so easy, because I don't have anyone that sits on the fence. I get people to come along, they may listen to this podcast and go, oh, this sounds great, I'm going to subscribe to Steve. And then after a couple of my emails, they're like, I want nothing to do with this guy. I don't like what he talks about. I don't understand. I can't understand his accent. Unsubscribe. And I'm fine with that. But I've made it easy for you to be able to make that decision by me being very easy to understand. Because you were saying earlier about you put no energy about your karma and what you release out into the world. I actually work my entire life on an ROE, not on ROI, an ROE. What is the return on my energy? Okay? Not on my investment, my energy. If I put 2 hours of work into this, will what I get back make it worthwhile of my energy? I've got money.
Right.
My focus is energy. Okay? And so I'm not going to sit there going, oh, I better get a pretty half-naked woman and write a meme and show a selfie on my jet. Do you know how many people that own jets have never, ever done a selfie of themselves on their own jet? Have you ever noticed it's only arseholes that don't own the jet that take a selfie of themselves? You ever noticed that? So I just decided, no, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to throw out my opinions, my views, call it as I see it, love it, leave it, like me, loathe me, whatever. I'm going to make it very easy for you to make that decision. From there, that will do the marketing. That will do the brand, everything else. So would I still be the same person I am today if I started in today's days? Absolutely, because the same shit still aggravates me, and I would still call it out.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know about all the people who are going to unsubscribe from you because they don't like you. But if you invite me to a party, I'll come. No questions asked.
What are you going to bring?
Some ribs, I guess. You said barbecue.
There you go.
All right, so these are the last, final 5 questions. It's rapid, not no long answer, just first thing coming to your mind. All right? If you spent a lot of days with a lot of people, so this is going to be a weird question. If you could spend a day with one person and, basically pick their brain and just get to know them, who would it be?
Hitler.
Wow.
Whew.
That was the first.
No, I've been asked that question before, and it's always Hitler. And here's why. This guy tried to build a super race of Germans by eliminating everyone else that wasn't blonde and blue-eyed, okay? Well, Hitler was short, brown-haired, and Austrian. So he was building a super race that would have eventually killed him. Why? It made no sense to me. So I would always like to ask that question.
Wow. Kitty, do you have a second one? Or you don't? What would you
said
tell?
A question?
No, never mind. What would you tell yourself at 30 years old right now, if you could go back? Something that you didn't know.
Stop drinking the shit whiskey. That would be it. That would be it. That would be the only thing, because in my darkest moments have become my greatest empowerment. If I got my 30-year-old to avoid some of those pains, they wouldn't feel how strong they were. Because let's be serious, we only become tougher fighters when we win a fight. You're not doing someone a favor by avoiding the fight, are you? So I would just tell them, stop drinking the shit whiskey. It'll rot your guts out. Only pick the good stuff. And then I'd walk away. So that would be my answer.
Follow-up question. We're at your party. What are we drinking? What's your drink of choice?
I like a good old-fashioned with a good bourbon.
Okay.
All right. Something you do every day that makes you super happy.
So I get up every morning before my wife has. I pour the coffee and I walk a lap of my home, looking out over the hills, drinking the coffee with my 2 dogs, just proud that that's my little piece of heaven.
That sounded like a little piece of heaven. You got what kind of dogs?
I got an old English bulldog and a little Chihuahua Terrier mix kind of thing. Both of them are adopted.
Okay. All right. This is the last question. The normal new American dream would be you would be still working as a stockbroker, and you would probably be about to retire in 8 years, and then you and your wife and your kids and the dogs can take a vacation more often now. That was the old American dream. What is your version of the new American dream, especially if the version your kids probably would want to live nowadays? What's their version?
Wouldn't it have been really powerful if I had been, wouldn't it have been really painful if I'd have been a successful stockbroker? How I would have thought by having my Porsche and my home, that would have been really good, but it wouldn't have, would it? So now what I do is I constantly push myself for the unknown. The bottom line of it is I'm very successful today and I'm very happy, but I don't want to get lazy. I want to push what I'm possible to do, and I want to fail along the way. So every year I want to fail as many times as I can at as many different things as I can to continually grow. Challenge yourself on a weekly and monthly basis to do and try something and experience something that you've never tried or experienced before. That to me is growth.
Wow. And if you would have stayed a stockbroker, that would definitely be called selfish, because you went, even that book, it changed my life. It changed my mindset, at least, and I think even if I would have stayed a mailman, that would have been selfish of me, because I help so many families and friends buy houses now because that's what I'm good at, and it would have been, it's like so many people, if you don't do what your gut's telling you to do, it's kind of like you F the world. I'm gonna just keep it squashed down,
It's nasty. You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. It would have just been, there's an old saying out there that, again, Joe Polish gave to me. He said, hell is meeting the man you could have been.
Yep. Dang. And, wow. All right, that's it. Kenny, you got any more questions?
Yeah, I love that last part. So I love to travel. And the new experience, it kind of ties into that. Where's your favorite place you've ever been? Or where would like you recommend, hey, you need to go here, any place in the world?
Florence, Italy, and Tokyo.
Wow.
Florence.
There you go.
All right. Thank you there, Steve. Let the people know where they can find you at. If you got websites or social media, how can they get in touch with Steve Simms?
Well, they can join an Entrepreneur's Advantage, which is my private Facebook group, or just visit stevedsimms.com, which is my website where you can find the videos and you can find out about the book, speakeasies, even the my Inner Circle Sims Distillery.
Yeah, and this how you know I was telling the truth. You see how dirty your book is? I had her a long, long time.
Yeah, you got the hardback there. Well done.
Yeah. I had this book a long time. I never knew I talked to you, but yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Take care.